I thought I had a loving wife, a good marriage, and a life worth protecting. We were building a future together, or so I believed, until I discovered my wife had been secretly sending money to her ex. And the reason why broke me more than I thought possible. Before we dive into this story, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. It helps me share more personal, real stories like this one. Now, let me tell you how it all started. My name's Daniel, I'm 34, and I used to think I had the kind of marriage people envied. I met Clara 6 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding in Austin, Texas. She was stunning. Dark hair, warm laugh, the kind of woman who makes everyone around her feel important. We hit it off that same night, and by the end of the weekend, I was already thinking about a future with her. Things moved quickly. Within a year, we were living together, and 2 years after that, we got married in a small ceremony surrounded by family and close friends. I worked in IT, mostly remote jobs that kept our bills paid and gave us a bit of financial cushion. Clara worked part-time as a graphic designer, but mostly stayed home and handled the house, bills, and what she liked to call the small details of life. I liked that. It felt like we were a team. For a long time, I really thought we were happy. We had our routines: Sunday morning pancakes, Friday night movie marathons, surprise midweek coffee dates. Nothing fancy, just solid moments that built the foundation of a shared life. I trusted Clara with everything: our passwords, our finances, my heart. I remember once telling a friend that if I ever made it big, I'd hand her my entire bank account without blinking. That's how much I believed in her. Looking back now, I feel so stupid for being that naive. The signs were small at first. A weird charge here or there on our shared card, a few unexplained Venmo transactions. But Clara always had a reason: a gift for her mom, paying back a friend for dinner, helping a cousin in need. And I never pushed back. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But then there were other things. She started getting more private with her phone. She used to leave it everywhere: the kitchen counter, the bathroom, the bed. But suddenly it was always on her. Face down, on silent. She started locking it, which wasn't something she ever did before. Still, I ignored it. Love makes you blind, I guess. One night, she told me she was thinking of going back to work full-time, said she wanted to contribute more to the household, which I respected. I even helped her build a portfolio website and polish up her resume. A few weeks later, she landed a remote contract gig with a marketing agency. I was proud of her. Things seemed to get better. She had more energy, more confidence. And yet I started noticing that our savings account wasn't growing even though we were both working. At one point, I even wondered if I had made a mistake in my budgeting spreadsheet, but the numbers didn't lie. Money was going out, and I had no idea where. I confronted her gently at first, just asking if she'd been helping anyone financially or if there was a loan she didn't tell me about. She brushed it off, saying that she had everything under control and that it was probably just subscriptions or something I'd missed. I let it go. Again. I wish I hadn't, because what I would discover not long after would change everything. Not just how I saw her, but how I saw myself. How could I be so blind to someone living a double life right next to me? And what made it worse was who she was sending the money to.
I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. After that last conversation with Clara, I started watching more carefully, not because I didn't trust her, but because I couldn't trust what I was feeling. It's hard to explain, but when you live with someone for years, you start to notice the tiniest shifts. Her tone was a little too defensive. She laughed a little too quickly, and when I hugged her, she didn't melt into me the way she used to. That's when I did something I never thought I'd do in my marriage. I snooped. It took me a couple of days to figure out how to access our shared bank account in full detail, not just the app, but through the bank's desktop portal, where more records were stored. That's when I found them. Multiple recurring transfers, small amounts like $100 here, $150 there, spaced out every few weeks over the past 6 months, and they all went to the same name, T. Morales. The name meant nothing to me. At first, I thought maybe it was a cousin or an old friend she was helping out, but something about it didn't sit right. I copied the email associated with the transfer and searched through her old contacts, which I still had access to on a shared drive we once used for syncing our calendars. That's when I found it. T. Morales was short for Thomas Morales, her ex-boyfriend from years ago, the one she used to say was a huge mistake and the most toxic relationship she ever had. I remember that name because early on, Clara had told me that if I ever ran into him or heard his name, I should run the other way. That's how much she claimed to hate the guy. Now I was staring at months of secret money transfers to the man she supposedly never wanted to speak to again. My stomach dropped. I didn't know what to think. My first thought was maybe he was blackmailing her. Maybe he had something on her and she was scared. That would explain the secrecy, the stress. I didn't want to assume the worst, but I needed answers. I waited a few days before saying anything, trying to observe her without giving away what I knew, but I was dying inside. One night, I finally asked, "Hey, Clara, do you still talk to your ex?" She looked up from her phone like I'd just asked if she believed in aliens. "What? No, why would you even ask that?" "I just saw something that made me wonder," I said carefully. She paused. Her jaw tightened. "What did you see?" "A few payments, going to someone named T. Morales." There was a silence so thick I could hear my own heartbeat. Clara didn't speak. She just stared at me. Then she stood up, walked to the kitchen, and started pouring herself a glass of water like nothing happened. "You were snooping through the accounts?" she asked, her voice unnervingly calm. "You lied to me. I trusted you with everything. Why are you sending money to your ex?" She turned around slowly. "Because he needed help." "Help for what?" "He's been going through something. Addiction, legal stuff, it's complicated." "And you didn't think to mention this to your husband?" "I didn't think it mattered," she snapped. "It was my money. I earned it. I wasn't cheating. I was helping someone." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you've been secretly sending money to a guy you used to sleep with for months, and you thought I wouldn't care?" "Don't twist this," she said, her voice rising. "You always make everything about betrayal. Maybe if you paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have had to do this alone." That was the moment something inside me snapped. All these years, I had been there. I had supported her through every job change, every doubt, every late-night breakdown. And now she was throwing that back in my face? Deflecting? Blaming? I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even stay in our bed. I sat on the couch and stared at the ceiling, wondering when exactly our marriage had started to rot. And worse, wondering what else she was hiding. But I still didn't know the full truth. Not yet. Because a few days later, I'd uncover something far worse than just money. And it would break me.
I thought I was prepared for anything, but nothing could have braced me for what I found next. After Clara admitted to sending money to Thomas, her ex, things between us became tense, cold. We moved around the house like strangers, offering each other hollow smiles and clipped words. Every interaction was covered in a thin layer of resentment. I started avoiding her, not because I was angry, I was, but because I didn't know how to look at her without seeing lies. I needed the truth. All of it. So I went back to the one thing Clara probably assumed I didn't know how to use, her old laptop. Years ago, when we upgraded to new devices, she gave me her MacBook because mine was getting slow. She didn't bother wiping it because I never really used it, or so she thought. One night, when she went to stay at her sister's house for space, I opened it up and started digging. That's when I discovered an old Google account auto-saved into the browser. I clicked through expecting maybe some personal notes or archived emails. What I found instead were hundreds of emails. Most were to and from Thomas. The subject lines alone made my chest tighten. "Miss you today. Same room, different lives. Last night was everything." I opened one from 3 months ago. It was Clara writing, "I can't stop thinking about our time in Denver. Being wrapped in your arms again made me feel like myself. I just wish I didn't have to go back so soon. Another one, more recent, I don't think he suspects anything. He's been distant lately, probably because he senses something's off. But it's worth it. You're worth it. I just sat there, the screen glowing in front of me like it was mocking me. Every line, every word confirmed what I had feared. The money wasn't just about helping, it was about maintaining the connection, about rewarding someone who was actively tearing apart my marriage. I felt stupid, pathetic, blindsided. I had given her the benefit of the doubt maybe too many times, and the entire time she was sneaking off, staying late at work, or needing time alone, she was with him. I scrolled through photos in the cloud storage linked to the account. She hadn't deleted them. Pictures of her and Thomas in hotel rooms, smiling at brunch, kissing on a balcony somewhere I didn't recognize. Her hair was curled. She wore that blue dress I bought her for our anniversary. She looked radiant, not like the distant, irritable woman I'd been living with. It hit me that this version of Clara, the one I saw in the photos, hadn't come home with me in a long time. I didn't sleep that night. My hands trembled with rage and disbelief. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything I believed about love, trust, and loyalty. But still, I said nothing. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to think, to plan. I started tracking her movements, seeing when she was truly at work or running errands. I followed her one Thursday afternoon when she said she had a late client meeting. She parked at a coffee shop, got into a silver car that pulled up next to hers, and there he was, Thomas. He looked older than in the photos, grayer, heavier, but the way they kissed, the way her whole body leaned into him, that wasn't just a fling. That was emotional. That was real. For her. For them. I took pictures. I needed them. Not for revenge, but because I had to finally face it. I drove home in silence, windows down, letting the wind hit my face so I wouldn't scream. When Clara walked in that night, I acted like nothing had changed. I asked how her meeting went. She said it was exhausting. She poured herself wine and sat next to me on the couch, scrolling through her phone like she wasn't a walking lie. And I just nodded, because I wasn't ready yet. Not until I had everything. Over the next few days, I consulted a lawyer, quietly. I opened a separate bank account. I started moving my paycheck into it. I changed the passwords to my personal accounts. I made copies of the messages and photos and stored them in multiple drives, one in a safe, one with a trusted friend. I was preparing, and Clara had no idea. I could have exploded. I could have screamed at her, thrown everything in her face, told her exactly how much she had destroyed me. But I didn't, because I wanted to make sure that when I left, I did it without looking back.
I didn't rush it. I waited. I watched. I let her feel like everything was fine, like she still had me wrapped around her finger. I smiled when she smiled. I kissed her when she leaned in. I even made dinner one night and acted like I was trying to rekindle things. She responded in kind, probably thinking her performance was convincing enough. But I was done being the fool. I chose a Friday evening. I knew she had plans. She had told me she was meeting Michelle from work for drinks. I let her get dressed. I watched as she put on perfume, fixed her hair, even practiced her fake smile in the mirror. I said nothing, just watched. She left around 6:30. I waited 5 minutes, then followed her. She didn't go downtown where Michelle supposedly lived. She went straight to a hotel on the edge of town. I parked a few spaces away and waited. 10 minutes later, Thomas pulled in. Same car, same smug face. He walked inside like he owned the place. I gave it another 20 minutes, then walked in myself. I had booked a room the day before, just a few doors down from the one I knew they'd end up in. I didn't plan on barging in or making a scene. That wasn't my style. I just needed confirmation. I walked past their room and paused. Laughter, her voice, then silence, then the sound of a bed creaking. I felt sick, not angry, just empty. I went back to my room, packed up, and left. I didn't want to sleep under the same roof. When I got home, I opened my laptop and started writing the letter. I told her everything. Everything I had found, everything I had seen, everything I knew. I didn't yell or accuse or insult. I just laid it all out. I printed it, left it on her pillow. Alongside it, I placed a flash drive with all the photos, screenshots, emails. I didn't want to argue. I didn't want to hear excuses. I just wanted out. When she came home that night, I was already gone. I stayed with my brother for a few days, and the silence from her was deafening. Then the text started. Can we talk? Please come home. I can explain. And finally, I'm sorry. But by then, I had already filed for divorce. Her tears didn't move me. Her apologies felt hollow. She wasn't sorry for cheating. She was sorry for getting caught. She tried to turn it on me, said I was distant, cold, absent. But I had been right there every day, trying. She was the one who checked out. She was the one who chose him. And now she had to live with that choice.
I waited until everything was in place, every detail accounted for. Clara didn't know it yet, but her carefully crafted house of lies was about to collapse. One Saturday morning, I told her we needed to talk. She looked up from her coffee, surprised, maybe even slightly nervous. I said I'd booked us a weekend at the cabin, just the two of us, to reconnect. That seemed to put her at ease. She smiled, even touched my hand like she used to. I think a part of her genuinely believed she could fix things with surface-level gestures. We drove up to the cabin in silence, the kind that fills the car like fog, heavy, unspoken, dense with all the words we weren't saying. I'd packed everything I needed. The photos, the emails, copies of her texts. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't there for drama. I just wanted to end it. Once we arrived, we settled in. She lit a fire, poured wine, tried to play the part of the doting wife. I let her. Then I told her to sit down. She did. I pulled out the folder, thick and organized. I placed it in front of her. For a moment, she didn't move, just stared at it like it was a bomb. "What's this?" she asked. "Everything," I said quietly. She opened it. The silence that followed was unbearable. Page after page, I watched her face change, from confusion to dread to complete defeat. She didn't deny it. Not once. She closed the folder slowly and looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. "But you did. Over and over." She reached for me. I stood up. I told her I'd already spoken to a lawyer, that I had already started the paperwork, that I had no interest in making this messier than it needed to be, but I wasn't staying. She cried, begged, said it was a mistake, that she loved me, that it was just a phase. I asked her if a phase usually included hotel rooms and secret email accounts. She had no answer. I packed my bag and left her there. Drove back down with the windows open and the music playing loud, the way I used to when I was younger, before life became all about fixing other people's mistakes. The divorce went smoothly, legally speaking. We had no kids, and I had enough proof to make sure there was no debate. She moved out. I stayed in the house for a while, but eventually I sold it. Too many ghosts in the walls. I moved into a smaller place near the lake. Quiet. Peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I woke up without dread in my chest. I started running again, cooking, reading. I joined a local community group and started volunteering on weekends. I met people. Real people. People who didn't lie with every smile. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I felt the weight of betrayal all over again, like I had been hit in the chest. But over time, it dulled, hurt less. I learned something important through all of this, that peace doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from truth, from taking back control of your life when someone else tried to rewrite it, I'm not bitter. Not anymore. Clara made her choices and I made mine. I just wish I hadn't spent so long hoping for someone to become who they used to be instead of accepting who they really were. If you're listening to this and you're in a similar place, doubting, second-guessing, hurting in silence, I hope the story gives you the courage to face what you need to face. You don't need anyone's permission to choose peace. Thank you for staying with me through all 5 parts of the story. Your support means more than you know. If you felt something from this, if it helped you or moved you in any way, please subscribe to the channel. I've got more stories to share. And who knows, maybe one of them will be yours. Until next time, stay strong.